One final night in Hollywood, Harpo Marx stepped off the stage, a smile still lingering on his lips. But when the lights dimmed, he coughed, clutched his chest, and collapsed, dying on his wedding anniversary in 1964. The world adored him, the silent clown with the honking horn, his harp melting hearts, yet behind the spotlight. Harpo lived in an invisible cage, where every smile hid something deeper. Whispers of a dangerous Soviet trip, impoverished Manhattan days, and a failing body were all locked away beneath his golden wig. Why did the man who made the world laugh never dare to speak? Did a secret from Moscow, or a pain he concealed, take him away? Stay with me as we step into the shadowy backstage, hearing the quiet harp and words never spoken. What snuffed out Harpo Marx's smile? Let's uncover a story you'd never expect. Chapter 1. Hope amid poverty and the pressure to succeed. Picture an 8-year-old boy under flickering Manhattan streetlights, clutching a stolen apple, eyes fixed on kids playing in a dark alley. That was Harpo Marx, born Adolf in 1888, in a cramped apartment where dreams were as scarce as meals. His Jewish immigrant family scraped by his father, a tailor. His mother, Minnie, a fiery force, seeing stardom in her 5 sons. But Carnegie Hill didn't welcome dreamers. Harpo tasted bitterness early. Classmates mocked his Jewish roots, once throwing him out a school window. "You don't belong here," they spat. He quit school in 2nd grade, never looking back. The streets became his classroom. Harpo petty-thieved, played piano in brothels, did anything to feed his family. But amid the chaos, he found a spark. In a warehouse corner, he discovered an old harp, its strings slack, coated in dust, mimicking an angel's pose from a scribbled sketchbook. He taught himself to play, though incorrectly, the strings loose like his own frail body. Each note defied a judgmental world. Silence became his shield. Bullied, belittled, he let his eyes speak. In a letter to Groucho, Harpo wrote, "Silence keeps me safe, but safe from what?" Minnie pushed him onto vaudeville stages with his brothers, and that silence began to shine. But after each show, Harpo sat backstage, breathing heavily, hand on his stomach, as if an unseen pain stirred. Once, a doctor came to check him, but Minnie waved him off. "My boy's fine, he's got to perform." Did she miss a warning sign? A half-written diary page, found later, bore a shaky line, "If I speak, they won't let me on stage." Was Harpo hiding physical pain or a deeper fear of judgment? Each time he took the stage, Harpo tuned his harp meticulously, hands trembling out of emotion or a sickness that made the strings feel heavy. He smiled for the crowd, but was that harp his escape? From the taunts still echoing in his mind, the pain of being an outsider for his roots, his poverty followed like a shadow. Did that shadow plant the seeds of illness? Or was it just the start of a life where silence both saved and destroyed him? Harpo found light in his dark childhood, but was his body and heart already cracking back then? Chapter 2. The pressure to stay silent under the spotlight. One vaudeville night in 1910. Harpo stood before blinding stage lights, hands shaking. The crowd murmured. He swallowed his lines, mouth dry, watching Groucho smoothly cover for him. Then laughter erupted, not for a joke, but for Harpo's awkwardness. A clown out of place, a critic sharp as a blade, wrote the next day. "Harpo's only funny when he doesn't speak." Those words cut deep, turning his stage fright into a fateful choice silence forever. That silence made Harpo shine. With his honking horn and cane, he had audiences roaring. But in the dressing room, some say, Harpo kept a cassette, the only recording of his real voice, warm and soulful. No one knew its contents, only that after that night, he locked it in his harp case, as if afraid the world might hear the real him. "If I speak, they won't love me," he mumbled to a co-star, eyes red, clutching his harp like a soul friend. The pressure weighed heavily. Minnie, with a stern gaze, compared Harpo to Groucho, the favored son for his quick wit. "Be more like your brother," she'd say, as if Harpo were his shadow. The audience loved the mute clown, but when they asked, "Why don't you talk?" Harpo felt violated, as if he wasn't good enough to speak. Some recall on a forum that Harpo wasn't mute, his voice was warm, but he stayed silent, feeling unworthy. He wrote in a notebook, "I let them think I'm mute. It's easier." But how could it be easy when each stage smile swallowed shame? Groucho once joked to the crew, "If Harpo starts talking, he'll ruin the illusion." Was it a jest, or did his brother, basking in the biggest spotlight, want Harpo caged in silence to protect the Marx Brothers brand each night? Harpo stepped from backstage, forcing a smile, but inside he wondered, am I an artist or just a mute clown? Self-doubt grew, and each time he tuned his harp under the lights, his hands shook as if an unseen pain awoke. Did that pressure, alongside judgment from fans and family, quietly eat at him, pushing him closer to the edge, or does that cassette, hidden in the harp case, hold a bigger secret about Harpo's broken heart? Harpo chose silence for success. But did that cassette and family pressure turn silence into his prison? Chapter 3. A troubled love story leading to tragedy. The red light flashed, cameras stopped. Harpo stood still on the MGM set, sweat beading on his brow. His horn was stuck in his oversized coat. An assistant whispered, "He's staring into nothing." Hollywood in the 1930s dazzled, and Harpo, with the Marx Brothers, was its heart. Films like Duck Soup in 1933 and A Night at the Opera in 1935 had audiences howling. He pulled torches, even fish, from his coat, sparking roars. His harp, gentle amid the comedy, touched souls. Harpo was an icon, the silent clown the world cherished. But the spotlight lit his smile, not his pain. Off stage, Harpo carried deep wounds. He once loved a woman, chose a ring, but she died in a plane crash. That loss cut like a knife, closing his heart. Then Susan Fleming entered his life. She boldly proposed 3 times, shocking Hollywood, and they wed quietly in 1936, with 4 adopted children. Harpo found joy. He wrote in a notebook, "Susan makes me want to live." But that happiness was fragile as morning mist. Hollywood demanded Harpo stay the silent man. Every appearance meant fans expected the horn, not his voice. The pressure suffocated. A co-star said after final scenes, Harpo would retreat to the dressing room, run the faucet for hours, and sit silently. What did he hear in that water past whispers, or his own weary heartbeat? An old friend noted. Harpo never got drunk, but always held a bottle. A private doctor was hired quietly. No one asked why. Was he hiding physical pain, or a heartbreaking under strain? The Great Depression worsened things. Harpo was cut from the Marx Brothers radio show for not speaking. Groucho and Chico earned thousands, while Harpo stood in shadow, feeling abandoned. A crew member recalled him muttering, "I'm their clown, that's all." The world loved Harpo, but judged him if he dared speak, as if his voice would shatter his image. Each applause made him wonder, do they love me, or just the mute shadow? Inner pain grew, and his body, perhaps weak since childhood, began to ache namelessly. A co-star noticed Harpo sometimes clenched his fists, as if suppressing something. Under the spotlight, he smiled, but backstage, his harp leaned against the wall, strings slack, untuned. Did that fame warm him or burn him from within? Harpo found love and stardom. But were that running water and silent harp signaling a body already breaking? Chapter 4. Rumors that nearly broke Harpo. At Moscow's airport in 1933. A security officer stared at Harpo's left shoe. He froze, sweat beading. Around his neck hung a U.S. Goodwill ambassador tag. Under his sole, something paper-thin brushed his foot. Harpo forced a smile, his horn trembling in his pocket. He was America's first comedian to perform in the Soviet Union, carrying the Marx Brothers glow. But this trip wasn't just about stages. Some say after leaving Moscow, Harpo received an unmarked envelope, scribbled with, "Be careful, clown." He never mentioned it. But from that day, he locked his dressing room door even while applying makeup. That trip left deep scars. En route to the Soviet Union, Harpo stopped in Germany, witnessing Jewish oppression under the Nazis. He wrote in a notebook, "I vomited seeing them, wearing yellow stars, staring through windows. That pain clung to him, a reminder the world hated his roots. He supported Zionism, donated harps to Israel. But each act seemed to draw shadows. In studio hallways, whispers spread Harpo was a spy. A minor actor was fired for saying it aloud, then vanished. Those rumors, like smoke, seeped through Hollywood, making Harpo shrink inward. In his left desk drawer, Harpo kept a letter with a Soviet seal. No one could touch it. Susan once asked. He only said, "It's not for Hollywood." What was that letter? A KGB threat. A secret he carried to protect someone he couldn't explain, couldn't speak. Silence, once his shield, became a blade. Each miswritten article, each suspicious glance from fans, felt like a violation, as if they wanted to tear apart his true self. A friend said Harpo stayed up nights, staring out windows, as if fearing the dark. The pain of prejudice, of venomous whispers, choked him. He smiled for the audience, but inside, he was shattered. Did those Soviet secrets, those anti-Semitic judgments, gnaw at his body? Or does that letter, hidden in the drawer, hold a truth that would change everything? Harpo laughed for his final New York show, but in the dressing room, he coughed, hands trembling, clutching his chest. The old envelope stayed in his coat. Did that past follow him to his last breath? Was Harpo the carefree comedian? Or did that letter and past shadows quietly destroy him? Chapter 5, Self-Blame in the Shadows. One afternoon at Paramount's lot, Harpo quietly tore down a love-happy poster from the hallway wall. No one saw, leaving an empty wooden frame and his harp on the floor, strings loose, like an unspoken confession. By the 1940s, the Marx Brothers' star faded, new films flopped, and Harpo felt like a failure. Groucho shone on radio and TV. Harpo, trapped as the silent clown, felt out of place, a faint shadow beside his brother. A friend recalled him whispering to Susan by his sickbed, "If I'd talked more as a kid, things might be different." Those words cut, wounding himself. Self-doubt consumed Harpo. He wondered, am I truly good? Or just a screen lunatic? A crew member remembered him staring into a dressing room mirror, in his golden wig, muttering, "Maybe I dragged them down. The world loved the clown, but each laugh carried judgment. He's just a gag, nothing more." Playing his harp, he tuned the strings tighter than needed, as if wanting the notes to strangle him. He wrote in a notebook, "I let them think I'm clueless. It makes them happy." But the cost was inner pain, feeling unworthy, never enough. His health weakened. Some say he hid kidney issues, possibly from his poor childhood. Confiding only in Susan, he smiled for friends, but in long nights, he sat alone. The harp's notes like self-reproach. Each sound was an apology to himself. He felt violated by fans' expectations, family comparisons, his own silence in a dark room. Harpo held his harp as if it alone understood him. Did self-blame, alongside a secret illness, push him to the brink? Or was he a victim of a world that wouldn't let him speak? Was Harpo fighting himself? Or did that empty frame and silent harp foretell a body already broken? Chapter 6, Despair Before Death. In 1964, Harpo still wore his familiar smile. He played harp on Mahalia Jackson's Let's Pray Together, appeared on TV, and broke his silence in a 1963 speech, stunning fans with his warm voice. But beneath, his body was crumbling. He entered the hospital for heart surgery. Susan walked in, finding Harpo smiling, but his harp leaned by the bed, one string snapped. An omen. On September 28, 1964, his 28th wedding anniversary, Harpo died of kidney failure after a failed operation. The eerie timing sparked unanswered questions. Some say Harpo knew his end was near. A nurse recalled that minutes before his heart stopped, he touched his coat pocket holding a folded, faded paper no one's read. Whispers claim he left Susan a letter, a final goodbye, never shared. Some guess he chose the surgery date for its meaning, a way to say "I love you" to his wife, but his heart, or body, was spent. He smiled at the doctor, held Susan's hand, but a friend said his eyes were ready to let go. Harpo lived judged as the mute clown, a Jew in a prejudiced world, a comedian never good enough in his own eyes. Each fan's plea, speak, felt like a violation, as if they wanted to rip away his true self. He wrote, "I gave them what they wanted, not who I am." In his final days, he tried to stay joyful, playing harp for his kids, but his body gave out. Was it just illness? Or did a heart, broken by lifelong pressure, stop beating? Groucho wept openly at the funeral, a rare moment. It ended, but in a Beverly Hills drawer, a letter remains unopened, addressed not me, but them. Was Harpo's death a medical mishap? Or did the world crush him too long? A paper, a secret, may still wait to be found. Did Harpo leave smiling? Or do that pocket paper and unopened letter hold his final secret? Epilogue, the legacy of silence. Harpo Marx is gone, but his star still glows over Hollywood. Honored on the Walk of Fame, Marx Brothers films Duck Soup, A Night at the Opera still bring laughter across generations. His memoir, Harpo Speaks, revealed the real man, a lover of music and family, caged in silence. He inspired comedians like Charlie Chaplin, even Mr. Bean, with healing laughter. He joined the Croquet Hall of Fame in 1979, a quirky but fitting legacy. Harpo was the clown who made us laugh, but he's also a reminder every laugh has a cost, and every silence, a scream unheard. He was a victim of a judgmental world for his Jewish roots, his silence, for never being enough for Hollywood. He endured prying eyes, crushing expectations. I'm Harpo, but also Arthur. He wrote, a cry for help. His silence was art, but also a shield against prejudice, against the pain of being an outsider. He taught us that even in darkness, we can find light through music, love, laughter. Harpo's death leaves questions. Some say he chose his anniversary to say a final I love you to Susan, or did kidney disease, perhaps from his poor youth, fed by Soviet stress and silent pressure, quietly take him, whispers claim his final letter, if real, might reveal a weary but loving Harpo. A friend said a faded Soviet sealed envelope still sits in a Beverly Hills drawer. No one dares open it. Does it hold the truth of Harpo's last days, or just another piece of the mystery? Watch A Night at the Opera again. Don't just hear the harp, listen for what Harpo never said. What's in his coat pocket? That old drawer? A smile? A secret? Or a heart that endured too long? Harpo proves you can be judged, hurt, yet leave a mark. His star shines, not through words, but through notes and laughter that never fade. What do you think Harpo carried when he left? Share in the comments.